Are you recording now? Okay. Yeah, so I'm very happy to have you on board for this TMS API training. And I'm very happy to have Ollie here as well, who can support us for a bit more technical questions. I'd like to start with this visualization you probably already know. Um, Today we are talking about the DMS API. Maybe again, the information, there are around 35% of our vehicles that are transmitted via interfaces. This is important to know because a lot of those dealers do not operate directly on our platform. And it's also important that you are aware that whenever you add any new fields to the database or adapting the search, be aware that there are DMS or importers or other interface providers that have to be informed as well and that need time to adapt their own systems. And I know that, for example, AMAC, they do have releases only twice a year, so they aren't as flexible as we are. The biggest part of vehicles is still transmitted via our file-based interface, AS24i, but there are more and more customers moving to our DMS API. For example, we onboarded 6 pilot dealers from AMAC last weekend. And so the big advantage with the DMS API for our customer is that they do have this bi-directional synchronization of data, means they can send us vehicles to publish them on AutoScout, but they can also get their vehicles, and not only vehicles, so they can get other products such as dealer ratings or statistic information, and in the future also leads if they have their own lead management system so that they can populate it also with the leads generated on AutoScout. Yes, so the DMS API consists of 3 modules. Oh, I forgot something about the real-time synchronization. That is very important as well. So to be as a car dealer, if you want to react quick on the market, it is very important that you have this real-time transmission so that, for example, you can just click a button and adapt your prices or click another button to activate or deactivate a vehicle listing. So let's continue with the modules. We do actually have 3 modules we sell to our DMS API customers. This is a base module that allows them to manage the whole cycle of their classified listings on AutoScout. Means creating, updating, deleting listings, activating them. They can book top listings via DMS API. And from the beginning of next year, also statistics. Then there is a other module called customer. The customer modules allows them to manage their customer interactions as getting and managing dealer ratings, and in the future also leads. And then there is the configuration module that allows them to identify and configure vehicles. And here it depends whether they use Eurotax or AutoIDAT or our master data. We provide them different endpoints. So I'd like to give you a concrete example that you can imagine a little bit better how this could work and which endpoints they have to invoke. So I show you on Swagger, but directly on back end, because this is a little bit easier for the authorization than if it works. Yes. I come back to authorization a little bit later. Okay, so if you can imagine you are, for example, an AMAG car dealer. You sold this morning a brand new Audi, and you received, what example do I have? You received a Range Rover as an exchange vehicle. So what you now want to do, you want to add this Range Rover, this exchange vehicle, to your DMS, because you probably want to make an evaluation and then resell this vehicle. And in order to do that, you can use our configurator. And in this case, you will use the Eurotax configurator as AMAG uses Eurotax data. Here we do have different endpoints. I know that configuration via Win won't work because Range Rover isn't supported, but they could also add this vehicle or do this configuration via certification numbers. So what we need here is the account of the car dealer, then the certification number of the vehicle, this one here, and model year, model month is 6/2020. So, okay, this works. I got a 200 response, and I do have what I got back here is the Eurotax code. So the unique number from Eurotax and some more information like transmission type ID and so on. So what I now want is to get a unique Eurotax vehicle, and I can do this by invoking this endpoint here. Get Eurotax vehicle by needed infos. So this should return a single Eurotax-based vehicle with serial and optional equipment. So I'll add the Eurotax vehicle ID, again the account ID, month and year, and the transmission type was this 189. Okay, so what I now get back here is a vehicle object where all our lookup IDs are already assigned, and I also get Eurotax equipment, means serial and possible optional equipment. I'll show you how this looks like. We'll add this here. So for the equipment, let's search for the equipment. We do have Eurotax equipment here. If a standard is set to false, it's about optional equipment. And a standard true means it's a serial equipment. So what we now can do, as we didn't do Win insertion, we still have to add the optional equipments for these concrete vehicles. And for example, we can say, oh, this vehicle has this optional equipment here. So we can set this checked here to true. Oops. So what is the next step? We could now save this vehicle to our DMS. And I mean, this is quite interesting because with this configuration here, with this configuration module, the customer has the possibility to get Eurotax data from AutoScout, and he doesn't have to pay Eurotax for this service. And this is quite a big advantage because we are already doing a lot of work for him with doing all the mappings and adding the equipment and this whole logic. I don't know, do you want to say some words about this, Ollie? I think we are doing there quite a lot of work for our customers if they get Eurotax data from us.
Yeah, I mean, we need to check the legal contract there. That's still an open one, I think.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, what I've seen here, what was missing here is the certification code, for instance. But that's a side note, because without certification code, you don't get energy data. But if you post it afterwards, the energy data will be populated.
Yeah. So it's important that also what we now do is, so as a car dealer, I now added this vehicle to my DMS. I can, for example, do a Eurotax evaluation, and I know what price I want for this vehicle. So I decide to put this listing to AutoScout now. So I can move to this dealer section. And now I do have different post endpoints depending on my provider. And as I'm using Eurotax data, I must take this endpoint. So this function inserts the vehicle with all data in AutoScout database. And the vehicle is just saved in status draft, means it isn't online yet. So let's take the object we got back from the last endpoint. I add the information here. I add the information of the account and then try it out. So this works. I got a 200 response and I also got a vehicle ID here. We're operating on in system here, so I can check in the database whether this vehicle was inserted. And I got this vehicle in database for this data source, DMS AMAG, and in status draft. So it isn't online visible yet. So the next step would now be, as we write it here, next step, invoke, put, activate if you want to publish your insertion on AutoScout. I need the vehicle ID in order to do that. Okay, and there is another section called publishing where I have this endpoint here, activate. So I'm gonna add the vehicle ID. And what do you think? Will I be able to activate this vehicle, setting it to status ID 30? Does anyone has an idea?
Are there any missing fields?
Yes, you're right. There are any missing fields. We didn't add mileage and price yet, for example. If we're gonna switch back to our example, we're gonna search for the price. There isn't a price yet, and there are mileage will work. 0 mileage should work, but we're gonna try it out. And we get a 400 response, and we tell the customer, you first had to add further information as body color ID and price. They are missing. Yeah, so let's switch this as an example how the DMS API could be used if you want to add a vehicle listing to AutoScout. So let's switch back to the presentation. Are there any questions till now?
Just one from my side. So now we would be able to edit this vehicle using some button points and then publish it, right?
Yes, yes, you're right. Here in the dealers, there are also put endpoints per provider where you can adapt your vehicles, and there is also an endpoint if you just want to add required data, so you can adapt it and then again publish it, and it should work.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So let's move on with our API gateway and authorization. So our API gateway is one of the supporting systems we are using for the DMS API. There is a public part called the portal where we add our customers that are the developers, and where we have the catalog of our APIs that we present to our customers, and where they can get an API key to get authorized for an API. I show you how the public part looks like. So this is the public facing part of our Tike gateway. That's the link our interested customers get. We then provide them access to this portal, and on the API catalog, they find all available APIs. In this case, the user would be interested in consuming the DMS API. He has the possibility to request an API key here. He has the interactive Swagger documentation here as well, where he can do the authorization and try out the endpoints. And he has a further documentation here, where I'll come back to later. When he asks for an API key, we see this in the dashboard. The dashboard is where we manage our APIs and where we can define policies. We can define quotas and rates. So our Tike API gateway also gives us some more security in terms of server overload, and we don't have our customers working directly on our back end. And
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for DMS API, we don't need to have publicly available in identity server, or?
The identity server is managed on Tike as well. I'm not sure. Do you know that, Oli?
Sorry again.
At least they do not access this here. We can probably.
My question is connected. If we can, if a user who uses DMS API can, with Tike, can access identity server, which is only in Flamat network. Is it possible?
Oh, how do they authorize? Is the question.
I'll show you how they authorize. So
yeah, you asked this question yesterday already, Michael. I didn't have time to check that, to be honest. But I think they go directly to the identity server.
I don't think so, because we do have the identity server here. So here I'm now in the dashboard of Tike, where we manage the APIs. we do have, for example, the DMS API here, and we do also have the identity server here.
Yeah, but what is the URL?
The URL they use is, now I switch to the portal, and here we do have another documentation where we show them, for example, how the authorization works, the whole auth tool, and here,
yeah, but there you can see it's directly identity server.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they
That answered my question.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, and let's switch back to Tyke Gateway. For example, if a user requests an API key, that's here where we manage our customers. When they request an API key, we have to approve. At the moment, we do approve those requests manually to check whether they requested for the right API. You can then find the approved users here. And as I said, we are managing the APIs here. This means, for example, you can tell what the target URL is and stuff like that. Version management, endpoint designer. There are different methods, for example, if you want to track an endpoint. And what's quite cool here is that you can have one big API in your backend, but then decide by just assigning certain endpoints that you only want to show a subset of endpoints to your customers in the front end. Or you could also have different APIs in the back end, and then taking them together as one API, you will then present to your customers. Yeah, we will certainly have to do a separate training session for this Tyke dashboard once. So, yeah, we are using different authorization types per API. We do have DMS API and Partners API on our API gateway, but we still have our another web interface, our HCI JSON, that is IP restricted. Partners API is just restricted via API key, as they are just allowed to get data, they only get endpoints. This is mainly for affiliates and partners that want to get our vehicle listings. For example, it is used for those online contracts from SwiftCode, or it could be used for Anibis to get our vehicle listings, or there is an initiative to move Comparis from the old API to this Partners API. On the other hand, we use OAuth 2 resource owner password flow for the DMS API, as we need some more security, like they can also adapt data. So let's have a look at this DMS API authorization. As I said, we use the OAuth 2 resource owner password flow to authenticate their application against our API. So they must provide us with client ID, client secret, and a username. This is an AutoScout account ID and a password. And we are then mainly doing authorization on one hand with our account settings, and on the other hand with bookings. So with the username, or behind the username we get here, we save account settings. And with this account settings, we have the possibility to authorize a DMS for the different modules or for different endpoints. This is just simple JSON. I can show you. I copied it somewhere here. Not here. No. Wait, let me think. How can I show you that? Just a second. Yeah, I do have an example here. This is an example of reputation. Reputation is a customer that gets dealer ratings for AMAG. Okay, and here in the account settings of this account, we allow them to use the insertion module, and we allow them to use the customer module. If you remember, the customer module you use for the dealer ratings, to manage the dealer ratings, and in this case, you can also allow them to use special endpoints. This is a bit a special example, as they are just allowed to use the insertion module for one account and not for the whole AMAG, because as Reputation is an external partner, we don't want them to be able to adapt the vehicle listings of AMAG. So they should only be able to get dealer ratings and manage dealer ratings, but then they should, with these endpoints here, we allow them to consume some specific endpoints to get account details and further information about the different AMAG dealers.
So it's, yeah, you know, there's like requirements from the customer, of course, and also from our side in terms of contracts and how we want to build them. That's why it's not that easy topic. Also, the implementation is yeah, a little bit complex.
Yeah, so one part of the authorization are those account settings, and another part are bookings. We do have bookings just for billing, but then there are also bookings we use for authorization as well. This is, for example, this AS24 DMS configurator booking, that every customer that uses the configuration module must have this booking. You can imagine that, let's switch back to the modules. You can imagine that not every I know, for example, for EFAG, we do have EFAG dealers that use Eurotax data, and other EFAG dealers use AutoIDAT data. So you cannot not allow just the whole DMS to use Eurotax or AutoIDAT data. And as this costs around, for Eurotax, it costs them around 2,200 Swiss francs per dealer and year. So this is something that we bill separately per customer. Yes, so this is about the whole authorization. As I already showed to you, they do have those explanations online on their portal, how they have to do this, or Auth2 resource owner password flow, how to get an access token, what they must do to refresh the access token as it expires after certain time, and then how they can make DMS API requests. So yeah, and if they want to do a DMS API request, they just invoke the endpoint, and they have to provide this bearer token, and the bearer token is what they got back from when they invoke the endpoint on the identity server with this client ID, client secret, user and password. that's the token they got back, and they then have to provide with the DMS API requests as well as the API key they had to provide too. And then there are other things in this online documentation. For example, there's a section evolution where we describe them, how we handle change and how we do deal with breaking changes. I hope we will be able to do that, but we say that we will inform them 4 weeks before the launch of a breaking or the launch of a new version that could cause a breaking change, and that the old version should continue to work for 6 more months. But we still do have version 1, so we didn't do this versioning yet for DMS API, but it should be possible via Tyke Gateway. Don't ask me any questions about that. I do not know enough yet. Yes, then there are special terms of use for DMS API clients. They're just in German at the moment, where we describe what they are allowed to do with our data. And I try to describe all the resources here as well, but yeah, not all of them are described yet. And there are some use cases, how you can, which endpoints you have to invoke if you want to configure a vehicle or do insertion, what we did before, or about publishing. If you want to publish a vehicle, you must be aware about our vehicle statuses, and also which status do debit free slots, for example, 30, so active, and 33 inactive. Those are all information they must know if they want to consume our DMS API. Yes, that's about this documentation here. Let's switch back to this. Are there any further questions about authorization? I also added a page on, or a link to an Insight page where I describe some cases a bit more in detail. Okay, so let's move on to vision and strategy. So why is the DMS API important for us and for our customers? Here is one example. I'm sorry, it is in German, but one point or one advantage of our DMS API is the integration at the right place of the processes. Means we can integrate our products at the early stage of the dealer's processes, and not only if the vehicle listing exists on AutoScout. In this example, I try to show the dealer Max that he tries to evaluate a vehicle and defining the price to resell it afterwards. And during this whole buy-in process, we can already support him with, for example, providing the market price of these vehicles. And during this whole buy-in process, the vehicle listing isn't on AutoScout yet, so this dealer wouldn't be on AutoScout. So this is a big advantage of our DMS API. And yeah, here is an input from our customer EFAG. This is Kim Patinama, project manager from EFAG Digital, and he says, I think the most important thing for us is that we get the data consolidated across all our dealers and do not have to click from dealer to dealer to collect the data. And he speaks about fleet statistics, means the Fahrzeugpark statistics. We do provide them in member area. He says, yeah, as well as cockpit data serve as a basis for us. I know they, month per month, they spend hours and hours to collect all those data and to log into all their dealers to get those statistic data. This is why providing statistics is one of the next points on our roadmap. Here is an example how EFAG integrates our DMS API in their inside. I think here we are in the detail of a concrete vehicle, and here they added AutoScout and the possibility to edit or activate this vehicle or to deactivate it. And they also added a deep link integration to our optimizer. So sometimes it makes sense to provide them just a deep link integration, and sometimes it makes more sense to provide them data via endpoints. This is the input from AMAG when they were the last time in Flamatt, and they'd like us to do continued development of car sales marketplaces, and one point is also dynamization and access to important KPIs as a service and support for retailers. Yes, about strategy and vision. I think we can generate a lot of added value to our customers. As I said, we can integrate our products in the right place, and especially at the beginning of those processes. And if you remember that a lot of those dealers are not on AutoScout, it's a huge possibility for us to bring our products directly in the DMS of those car dealers. With the DMS API, we do reduce media breaks and have therefore better data quality and much more time for the dealers. For example, if they have to do a vehicle configuration only once in the DMS, this is a huge advantage too. And we drive the digitalization in the automotive sector. Another important point is that we become an indispensable platform for our customers. The integration of the DMS API leads to a really deep integration in the DMS and CRM of our customers. And they can't say from one day to another, we will now switch off AutoScout. And the close cooperation with the customers also creates trust and provides deep insights into their systems. I mean, for example, with EFAG and AMAG, we do have bi-weekly coordination meetings about those integrations. Yeah, as I said, we can bring our products closer to our customers. Sometimes people are afraid that we drive people away from our platform, but I think that the opposite is the case. And we always have the possibility to decide, do we want to provide them data, or do we just want to provide them deep links? And in some cases, it makes sense, for example, with our dashboard or with the Optimizer Pro, to just provide them deep links. And with the deep links, we also bring the customers back to our platform then. And in terms of monetization, the DMS API could lead to a lot of upsells. So I made a proof of profitability just for Emil Frey and AutoIDAT, and there we do have a potential of more than 1 million Swiss francs. If you imagine that, I know that AutoIDAT and EFAG, they all want to integrate our market price in their systems. this market price will only be available with a professional abo. So if all of them would do an upgrade to a professional abo, this is a huge potential too. So that's about the strategic points and the next steps. Are there any questions about the strategy and vision? So let's move on with the next steps on the roadmap. So as I already told, it's this market price integration for configurations. We do already have it for existing vehicle listings, but we now want to provide it for configurations as well. Then it's providing statistics and access to the dashboard, providing leads that they can get our leads in their own lead management systems, and the possibility to book top cars. Then we do have very important points concerning the supporting infrastructure as having a separate testing environment for our customers. Like we do have a lot of problems at the moment operating them on our INT system. And as you all know, INT isn't stable at all at the moment. And this leads to customers not being able to do tests. And another point, we have a meeting for that this afternoon, is sorry, monitoring and ensuring the availability of our API gateway. Then what's going on with onboarding customers? AMAG started with 6 pilot dealers. They want to onboard the rest of their dealers in January 2021. We do have EFAG that wants to start a migration in the mid of December. The next will be PME and AutoIDAT for next year. Yes, and then there is the side letter that Oli mentioned, that it's important that we will sign this so that we do have a legal contractual relationship between us and Eurotax, so that we are really allowed to use this Eurotax data for our customers. Yeah, so are there any questions?
Just one about this last point. Did you already spoke to Eurotax about this? I mean, this looks like a really potential pain point for them because we are basically reselling their data, if I understood correctly.
Yeah. We spoke to them. We do have a contract in-house since more than a year. We just have to sign it. And it's about 30,000 Swiss francs. It's absolutely not a huge amount of money. And we do have a contract for AMAG. We don't need a contract for AMAG, as AMAG, they're paying directly to Eurotax. They do have their contract, but we do have a contract for Autohaus Schiess that is using our configurator as well. Mm-hmm. But it is just valid for 1 year, and so it's important that we do have this general contract signed. So it's our management that has to sign this side letter. And it is important as well because we are using, we are using Eurotax data for Finance Scout as well. And that's also somehow an illegal relationship there. So it's really important that this one gets signed. Yeah, people are aware of it, and I really hope that we will progress on this soon. Yes, are there any other questions? So if not, I think we reached the end, and thanks a lot for your attention, and I hope you learned something.
Merci, Tati.
Merci. Thanks very
Ja,
much.
merci vielmals.
Bitte, bitte.
Thanks.
You're